Yes, we are live now on Facebook.
All right.
Shall I start?
Yes.
Hello, everyone. Global Bus Foundation is pleased to welcome you all to its fifth episode webinar. We would like to remind you that we have already organized four webinars. The first one, Games in EFL Classes. The second one, Integrating Skills and Aspects in EFL Classes. The third one, How to Create an Enjoyable Learning Environment. And the last one, How to Teach Challenging Grammar Points to Fast and Slow Learners. Today's talk is going to be on conflict resolution in education. We have with us five amazing guests, or six amazing guests, um, who are going to share the most effective strategies to resolve conflicts in schools. I will be your moderator today. I am Asma Abul Faraj. I study at the English department in Mohammed V. I am also a TEFL trainee, a lead volunteer teacher with WASTA, and a young leader at GBF. GBF, or Global Bus Foundation, is a non-governmental organization based in Morocco. It is a place of rebirth and success with its great leaders who opt for change and high performance. It offers great opportunities for growth and leadership, global education, and peace building. Its purpose is to empower both youth and teachers by organizing various webinars, seminars, and workshops. It also facilitates presentations, workshops, and offers TEFL courses. GBF has trained and coached both youth and teachers in several countries around the world. So it is my great pleasure to introduce our first guest speaker today, who is going to talk to us about the importance of character education. Mr. Bushaib Zahawi, welcome. So Mr. Bushaib Zahawi was or has been a teacher of
I
English since,
yeah, I guess he has a problem about his mic.
yes. Um, can you please
Let's make
connect,
sure
Mr.
if he can
Zahawi?
hear us or not.
Okay. Can you hear us? I think he can't. I'm going to write to him right now. Probably he has to connect to audio. Yes. Can you please write to him on WhatsApp or anywhere else when I introduce other speakers? Okay, Mr. Hussein?
Yes.
All right, so I'm going to introduce you, Mr. Zahawi, even though you're not listening, not hearing us. Um, so Mr. Zahawi has been a teacher of English since 1978. He founded and is the president of the Moroccan Association of Character Education. He's also a part-time teacher of scientific English at Faculty of Sciences in Casablanca. You cannot hear us. Okay, he cannot hear us actually. Um, all right. So, shall we do anything about it or?
Yeah, we can move to the next speaker
Okay.
until
Yes,
he's gonna
sure. I'm going to,
fix his
yes, I'm
problem.
going to introduce all of you and then we move to the first speaker.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Our next speaker will talk to us about teaching social and emotional skills and values. Let's all welcome Ms. Hint Berry. She worked as a teacher for 20 years. And she is also a teacher trainer, and she worked as a teacher trainer for the past 2 years when she participated in training teachers and designing official learning plans under the supervision of Ministry of Education. Also, we would like to welcome Mr. Hossein Qasras, who is going to talk to us about one of the most interesting topics of all times, the 21st century skills, problem solving, and coaching students in dealing with everyday conflicts. Mr. Hussein Qasras is a teacher of business English um, uh, at CPGO Saleh. He has been teaching for over 12 years now. He has taught English, business, and marketing at prestigious institutions such as Sunderland University, LEMI, LENIM, and he is also the project manager of Global Boss Foundation and a teacher trainer and TEFL program coordinator at Tucoso Academy at the Canadian Academy. Our fourth speaker is Ms. Rashida Gilzim, who is going to share with us some of the solutions to disruption and conflicts in the classroom. Ms. Rashida was the co-author of various Moroccan textbooks, namely English in Life, Bridges, Highway, etc. In the last 3 decades, she has been training novice teachers at the Ministry of Education and teaching general English, business English, and legal English at the British Council Rabat in Morocco. She is currently a teacher trainer and teacher at the American Language Center in Rabat. And she has delivered various trainings in Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and many other countries. And lastly, we have Ms. Courtney Irwin, whose presentation is going to be about seeing the other as ourself. Very interesting topic, of course, within the context of education. Ms. Courtney Irwin is a specialist in international and comparative law with expertise in international human rights and Islamic law. She has over 15 years of experience working with religious, political, legal, educational, and civil society actors around the world, as well as UN agencies, international justice mechanisms, and other organizations. So, welcome to our amazing speakers and audience. We are now live on Facebook. Thank you all for attending. Please, if you have any questions, do not hesitate and write them down on Facebook. We will try to answer the questions after each presentation. Now, let's start with our first speaker, but I don't think he hears us. Shall we move to this next second speaker, Mr. Hussein?
Yes, we can. Yeah, thank you.
Yes. So, okay. So we'll start with Ms. Hint. Yes, you have the floor is yours. Please go ahead. Please unmute yourself. Okay, so I think she cannot.
Can you hear me? Yeah?
Yes.
Yeah,
we can.
Okay. Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you very much for the opportunity to participate in such an interesting webinar. Thank you very much for the opportunity to discuss such an interesting topic, which is conflict resolution in schools. In my opinion, I think that this topic is very, very interesting, not only for teachers, but also for the whole educational staff. So in my presentation today, I'm going to focus on how to teach social emotional skills in classroom practice. Means I'm going to illustrate some examples and go deeper into the classroom practice with concrete examples from real life situation of teachers, everyday life. So we move to the next slide. So here first, next one, Mr. Kersas. Yes, thank you. Thank you. So here first, before we go to illustrate these examples and explain how to teach social emotional skills, I think it's very important to know why should teachers or why should as educators teach social emotional skills. So here briefly and a general idea, simply it is to create a healthy functioning society. It means to create good citizens who strive for peace, living together and strive for peace. I think this is the most general idea or the most general aim, sorry. Now, if we go more specific, a bit more specific, we are going to see another aim, which is preparing preparing learners for their future careers. So here, previous educational systems created some professionals such as doctors, teachers, and so on, and others, who are not able to master the effective communication skills, who are not able to master the soft skills to resolving problems. They are not, and what is the most important, they are not able to resolve conflicts in their careers in an appropriate way, adopting so many emotional skills. So this is the general aim. This is why curricula designers agreed that these social emotional skills should be integrated in everyday classroom practice, and this is the aim. Now, we have to define briefly what social emotional skills are. When we speak about social emotional skills, we speak about how to interact with other people in order to create good relationships with them and peaceful environment, safe environment. So these are social emotional skills. As we can see here in the slide, we have 5 areas of social emotional skills. So we have self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision making. This is a very, very large, vague topic to talk about. So here I'm going to focus only on the skills and competencies that are straightforward, related to problem resolution in schools. So here I choose recognize emotions in self-awareness, stress management and self-regulation in self-management, empathy in social awareness, values positive attitudes in the relationship skills, and constructive choices in responsible decision making. So let's move on to the next slide. Yes. So let's move on to the next slide and see the emotional, see how to, what the identify one's emotion mean in our situation of resolving problems. So when we say identify one's emotion, it means the ability of learners to feel the first signs of anger, the first signs of anger in their body. So when they feel the first signs of anger, here the teacher's role is to attract learners to these signs and how to say, manipulate the process and teach them how to deal with, how to regulate themselves, in short, how to make themselves calm. So this process of teaching learners self-regulate is called, what is called in the next slide. Yes, Mr. Karsas, the next slide, please. It is called stress management and self-regulation. Stress management and self-regulation. So here the teacher or the teacher's role is to teach learners how to self-regulate. As soon as they feel the first signs of anger in their body, so the teacher asks the learner to stop what he is doing and change position. Maybe he is going to stand up next and sit on the chair next to the peace wall. Maybe he is going to stand up, or he is going to sit, or if he is standing up, he's going to sit next on the chair next to the peace wall. So this is just an example. So once he is on the chair, the teacher asks him to close his eyes and breathe in calmly for seconds and breathe out for other seconds, once or twice, it depends. Then relax his arms, relax his muscles, and here again self-awareness comes. And once he is aware that he is calm and can think of the problem, the teacher asks him to reflect on the problem he did. So this action or this process of reflecting a problem solving makes learners ask questions. For example, why did I behave so? And why did I behave so? And is it an appropriate behavior? What would happen if I or think about the consequences. So he is going to reflect with many questions in his head. Now, when he reflects, the teacher asks him some questions to lead him to give the solution, because she asks him to think, to decide on the solution he is going to take in order not to do it again. So when the teacher asks him to give the solution, this action is what we called in the next slide. So what we call in the next slide, responsible decision making. Yes, next slide, please, Mr. Karsas. Thank you very much. Yes, so this is what we call responsible decision making. When the learner, or when the teacher asks the learner, now you are calm, tell me, do you think that behavior was appropriate? He would say no, because he is calm now. What would you do differently? So he would say, of course, I say sorry. So here, this action of saying sorry is decision making, but it is not responsible. So when he says, I am sorry, and he promises not to do it again, so this is responsible decision making. So he has to promise not to do it again, and to make it constructive, responsible decision making, because still it is not so constructive. To make it constructive, so here he should, or the teacher should, carry out the process later to that student is dealing with his promise. And it is constructive because here the student, once he promises the teacher, once he promises the teacher, I have to say, the teacher now, okay. So when the teacher, once he promises the teacher, so it is responsible decision making. But when we say constructive, or when he promises the teacher, he will make efforts. Now I got my words. So he will make efforts to change behavior from negative to positive. So this change in behavior from negative to positive leads him to improvement in his behavior. And this is why it is constructive. And promising is responsible. Just saying, I am sorry, it is decision making, and it is not responsible, it is not constructive. So we move now to the next slide. Yes, Mr. Kassar, thank you very much. So the first slides were about resolving learner conflicts. Now in this slide, we are going to see some examples on how to teach learners empathy through empathy skills. So here we are going to deal with teacher-learner behavior. Teacher-learner behavior. In such situations, generally, learners disrupt teachers. This is the cause of the conflict. It starts with the learner who disrupt the teachers. So here we have three kinds of disruption. So here we have simple behavior, and we have complex behavior. These two, I'm going to start with those two examples. Simple behavior. I give you an example. For example, whistling in the classroom, or making strange noises like animal sounds, and this is very common. So how are you going to react? So first, let learners feel that this is not a problem at all. And you as a teacher, you have to believe that it is not a problem, and you will see why it is not a problem. In fact, it is not a problem. So how are you going to react? So here you are going to self-control first, self-regulate, and with a smiling, so smile with the learners, and you say, for example, whoa, is there a beautiful canary in the classroom? Or you say, oh, who is this beautiful cat? Oh, that's amazing. So here learners are not going to be, or the disruptive learner is not going to feel that he is afraid from punishment. So disruptive, they will laugh and say, oh, it's a, and they give you the name of the disruptive pupil. Okay, now call this pupil, call him, and practice the empathy. So practice empathy. So what is empathy here? Empathy is the ability to feel what the others feel. If you are sad, I feel that you are sad. This is empathy. Now practice empathy on this learner. So tell him, Okay, I like that sound. I like animals. I like sounds. I like how you are intelligent to manage this situation in 2 minutes. Yes, yes. You are going to manage this situation in 2 minutes. Then, shall I move on, Mr. Karsas? Sorry, yes. So you are going to ask him, practice empathy and say, okay, I know that you feel bored maybe or not interested. Okay, just tell me, I may bring some pictures, photos, I change methods, why not? So talk like this with your learners to build that strong relationship, because he will feel that he is interested in you. Sorry, you will feel that you are interested in his learning. So then now you say, okay, now imagine that you are a teacher now. Imagine that you are a teacher. How would you feel? And use the verb feel. How would you feel facing those 40 students? Do you think it's inappropriate behavior? They will say, no, it's not. It is not appropriate behavior. And then you invite him to make responsible decision making again. So this is for the simple one. Now, what if the behavior is very, very complex? So here we have another procedure, because in such situations, many teachers lose control and they start shouting and so on. And as a teacher, we have to master or stress and self-regulation before we teach it to our learners. So here you just practice deep breathing, take a rest, and when you are calm, so go to learners and address to learners and say, and let them feel that this is a serious problem, and this time with no smile, with with no smile, and do not be rude. So here you are going to be serious, you are going to be firm, and you tackle the problem wisely. So first you are going to follow procedures and make it a teachable session. How we make it a teachable session? So here we profit or we benefit from this to teach learners how to resolve problems. So here you are going to remind learners, you are going to identify the problem to the learners, remind learners that there are rules on the piece wall they have to respect while solving this problem. So these rules are about communication skills. For example, I do not interrupt, I respect my role, I give my point of view respectfully, etc. Then ask learners to focus on the behavior and not on the learner, because the behavior is bad and not the learner is bad. The next step, you can use brainstorming strategy to solving problem, to collect as many views of points and as many solutions they suggest. Then agree on the solutions or study the areas of agreement of that solution and get one solution, then call the learner again and say to the learner, this is the solution. The learner may like it because he is going to say, I am sorry, and make the responsible decision making. Maybe he won't like it. Yeah, maybe he won't like it. And here again,
actually, Ms. Hind,
yes?
You have 5 minutes left. Could you please?
Yes.
Yes.
I think I will finish. Yes, thank you very much.
Great.
Yes, thank you very much. So the last step here, it's a warm greeting. So warm greetings here, it is about receiving learners every morning or every session with a smile and trying to feel what they feel, because we don't know how these learners come from home, which problems they come from home with. So this is, now we move to the next slide. The next slide and the last one is teaching relationship skills and values. So group work and pair work is an excellent strategy. So because here we have, when you ask learners to work in group, they will conflict because they have different styles, different personalities, they have different thoughts, they have different cultures maybe. So here we expect some kinds of conflicts, and it is an opportunity for the teacher to monitor the skills in learners and to adjust them while working in group and pair work. So here I mentioned classroom management. Of course, it's because classroom management is instructing and monitoring, because instructing, you have to teachers have to instruct appropriately so that they do not make any free time for learners where they can make noise and dispute. So this is very important. They have to master instructing and monitoring. Now we go to the next slide. So briefly, I know that maybe 2 minutes left. Yeah, sorry. So we go to the last slide here. So how to instill values and develop social emotional competencies. Other ideas here. So we have teaching materials. We include sentences, and the topic about peace, a topic about values, and in our teaching materials. Visual supports. We can include. We can be selective in our visuals. Include, for example, just an example, people from all over the world, different cultures, different identities, refugees, people with disabilities, Black people, white people, etc. And core charts, and this is the most important, and they have to prepare it at the beginning of the year, at the early beginning. They are charts where they set the rules and stick it on the peace wall in a corner in the classroom. Assessment here, tell students that they are going to be assessed on those behavior, take part in the evaluation, continuous evaluation mark, and to be a model, of course. So they cannot teach social emotional skills if they don't master them. So thank you very much. This was very, very briefly. And I conclude here with the next slide. Yes, Mr. Karsas, to conclude, we have the famous saying, Mahatma Gandhi. So if we want to teach learners, we have to, if we want to reach real peace in this world, we should start educating children. Thank you very much for your attention, and waiting for your questions. Thank you very much.
It was a pleasure listening to your presentation. Thank you so much. Indeed, a teacher has so many roles. Not only do they explain the lesson, but also they are psychologists and coaches, and they help manage the classroom and help the students manage their emotions and everything. So we have here 3 questions. Okay, so the first question from Najwa Laraibi, she said, what can we do if the student keeps the same behavior? What can we do if the student keeps the same behavior?
Yes, okay.
Yes.
I think here she means the complex one, I think, not the simple one, the complex behavior.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here when he makes his responsible, why we call it responsible? So when we make a responsible decision making, so here you are going, for example, to think of other strategies. Let's, for example, say that you are going to sign a promise contract with him. Now he is going to write and promise not to do it again, and keep that that promise in words, and keep it with you or with him in his portfolio. And here, I think that gradually training them, because nothing comes at once. So this action needs to be continuously, gradually, and frequently. This is it. Because when we change behavior and when we instill values, they are instilled in an automatic way. For example, the more you practice those values, the more they are instilled automatically. Yeah.
Okay, so since we don't have so much time left, we do have another question from Khadija, Ontario. She said, isn't it hard to inhibit such unacceptable behaviors if we react to it in a positive way at first? Isn't it hard? Yeah, to inhibit such unacceptable behaviors, for example, to accept them. After, for example, a disruptive behavior from our learners, if we react in a positive way, do you think it's easy to do that?
Well, so for teachers who didn't experience that, first, during the first moment, it needs training. It is not easy if you are well trained. This is it. So what you need here, you need to master those skills and know about, and you have enough knowledge about how to teach social emotional skills. So I don't think that it is difficult. because to my personal experience, so simple behavior challenging, I used to consider them not problems. So I used to treat them that way. But concerning complex ones, so here they need to know about how more. So here time was not enough to explain more, but there are so many strategies, there are so many techniques that help teacher solve problems in a strategic way. So because just you reflect, I say to this teacher, just reflect on your picture when you are shouting and losing control, and make and compare between the two pictures. So in both cases here, you are going to lose time. You are going to waste time. So why not make it teachable moment? Teach the skills instead of
amazing.
Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. We still have time for a Q&A at the end of this webinar. Thank you so much, Ms. Hind. And let's move to our second speaker. Welcome, Mr.
You are most welcome, yeah.
Thank you. Welcome, Mr. Zahawi. Can you hear us?
Yes, I hear you.
Great.
Yes.
Finally.
Great. How are you, everyone?
Amazing.
Rashida, wow, you have English lady on the platform. Mrs. Rashida is the English lady for the Moroccan. Wow, nice. I'm very delighted to see you all. Mr. Kasara, how are you? Mr. Hussein, everyone, those who I don't know names, I will know them right now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We love this energy. It's amazing.
Good.
Thank you for joining us.
Good, right. So I'm going to be the second right now.
Yes, the floor is yours.
Yeah, good. So I'm very delighted to see many brothers and many sisters gathered in the same place for the same purpose. We are going to talk about education. Now, excuse me, I'm going to talk about this. Okay, so this is the poster. Of course, this is the motto of our association, and this is my topic. I'm going to talk about character education and conflict resolution education. And this is me with a smile, which I took in Casablanca. So I will start, of course, with the contents. I will talk about character education and conflict resolution education. Then I will talk about skills. Then I will talk about strategy, then implementation, and then I shift to questions. Do you hear me? Huh?
Yes, we do.
Good. So character education is about kids, about adults, about youth, about everyone. Okay? So before I talk about character education, I would like to say a word about education in Morocco. So we had our independence in 1956, and since then, we have been fighting, struggling to put it in the rail because we have some problems and we want to solve them. The four problems we have got is Arabization, Moroccanization, unification, and to put all the students in the same schools. So I'm going to talk about character education. So Horace Mann is the founder of character education. This man in the 19th century, champion of the common schools, strongly advocated and called for putting the character education in schools. Why? Because he was worried, he was afraid of the widespread of drunkenness, crime, and poverty during the Jacksonian period they lived in. Then we can give a definition of character education is a learning process, is a learning system that enables, that give the possibility, the opportunity to students and adults in a school community to understand, care about, and act on core ethical values such as respect, justice, civic virtue, and citizenship, and responsibility for self and others. So one of the, after Mr. Horan's man, we have Mr. our friend Martin Luther King, who said that intelligence plus character, that is the true goal of education. So you can see here that education is connected to character and connected intelligence, which will have the multiple intelligence with the 11 types of intelligence and so on and so forth.
Mr. Zahawi, sorry for interrupting you. Mr. Zahawi, do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so please, can you have a look at the slides? Because I'm in charge of moving your slides. Is it the right slide you are talking about?
I don't understand what you are saying, Mr.
Yeah, if you look at the screen.
Huh?
Look at the screen, the slides of your presentation. So here we have Horace Mann, character education. Is the right slide now? Because I'm the responsible for moving your slides.
Yes, I am on this, are you on Martin Luther King?
Let me see. Yeah, here we have character education, intelligence plus character. That is the true goal of education. Martin Luther King.
Yes.
So just let me know when you want to move to the next slide. Let me know. I'm gonna move. Okay.
Okay. All right. Okay. Okay. I understand. I understand.
Thanks.
I understand. Okay. So you move it now, please. Huh? We are here on Thomas Licona. Are you on? We have Indosign, the same? Mr. Casera.
Yes, Abu Faraj, we are on Thomas Licona, yeah, our moderator.
We are
Thomas,
on character
Thomas
education.
Licona.
Yes, Thomas Licona, exactly.
Yeah, this is PhD, is a psychologist
And the educator.
And this man, we call him the father of modern character education. This is an American from New York who became the modern character education. And this is his picture. Very nice man, smile with spectacles. Okay, you can move. What did he say? And this is one of the quotation of Thomas Licona. He said, good character consists of knowing the good, desiring the good, and doing the good habits of the mind, habits of the heart, and habit of action. Because character education is when you do something when no one is looking at you. You don't wait for someone to tell you, oh, good or not. But this is something you do it because you like it. You say that you care and you share it. Okay? Do you follow me?
Yes, sir.
Okay, then how we can implement character education? Implementing character education in schools. A lot of people hear character education, but they don't know how to implement it. So in our association, we tried to implement the culture of good behavior. And we call it the culture. It's a culture. It's not anything. It's the culture. It's not a program. It's a part of the program. To fight violence, smoking, and taking drugs, to save our youth, and to build a better world. Then, when beginning the process of implementing paragraph, when you want to implement character education in your school, please get together. First, this is a consensus building. It's an agreement between the administrators, the teachers, the students, the parents. You have to choose a list of character traits. You have a problem and you want to solve the problem. To resolve the problem, you need this trait to be fixed. So you have to come together and talk about them. So example of those traits which we have in our association, we have respect. For instance, responsibility, as an example, trustworthiness, fairness, caring, and citizenship. We have the 6 traits which are the pillars of character education in our association. And you can notice the color. Respect is yellow, responsibility is green, trustworthiness is blue, and fairness is orange, caring is red, and citizenship is purple. You can have in your class teams. Respect team is in yellow, responsibility team is in green, and so forth and so on.
Yes, sir.
And
please, Mr. Al-Hussein, could you please move to the next slide, I guess? Yeah, now we are in the same page. Please go on, Mr. Zahawi.
Yeah, are we on the same?
Yes.
School leaders should set realistic expectation. It depends on your school. So please don't see an American school or a British school or for people from Agadir or from Wujda doing something. No, this is a consensus between you and the teachers and the administrators, the students of your school. This is limited to your environment, to your community, yeah, the needs and what do you want. So you can implement character education using banners, brochures, signs, pictures, portraiture, and so. The opportunity for staff development that focus on integration. You integrate character into the curriculum. It's not part, it's inside the curriculum. A teacher, it's not only the teacher of Arabic or Islamic education or philosophy. All the teachers can teach character. Teachers of science, teachers of mathematics, teachers of physical education. Any teacher can integrate character education in her curriculum.
Yes, Mr. Zahawi, you have 10 minutes left.
Okay, faculty will be able to take advantage. Okay, failure for students to follow procedure can handicap them in developing intellectual skills and social skills. What are these intellectual skills and social skills? So we'll go straight forward. How to teach the 6 pillars. Trustworthiness, we have seen them. Trustworthiness involves 3 key aspects, which is honesty, reliability, and loyalty. And we go to respect, and notice the color again. Then cyberbullying, teacher or students or youth or young people who go to the cyber and start fighting, negotiating and resolving conflict, respecting people from other culture. And we go to the 6 traits. Mr. Kasira is lagging behind. Developing, how we can develop, because I still have 10 minutes, how we can develop character. In order to establish character education, each teacher needs to act as a giver, a model, and a mentor. The teacher should be the source of inspiration. He should inspire his student. He should behave. In fact, create a moral community. The students in front of you, you have to share, and not only to share, you share and you care, which is very important, fundamental, and important in the life of the community. Practice moral discipline. You have to practice, because practice makes perfect. Create a democratic classroom environment. Fairness, so you should be democratic. Don't make the difference between your students. All are students, your students, so you have to share and care. Teach value through the curriculum. Use cooperative learning. Develop the conscience of crime. Encourage moral reflection. Then we go. So I made it. This is what we call character education mind mapping. I put it in Arabic, French, and English, and I distributed this in my university, because I am a part teacher of English at the University Hassan Segal. I distributed all this SUA kun be. So be responsible, be fair, be caring, be trustworthy, good citizens. So you have to inspire students, be it in Arabic or French or English. Then within these traits, we can have rubrics: education and values, road safety and sustainable mobility, first aids and caring, arts and cultural tourism, sports and game, innovation and challenge, because this trait should be in a content, integrated in content. And we go. So I want to say a word about the National Board of the Moroccan Association of Character Education. All are very young people, but two are old. Is Mrs. Khaled, the lady here, and I am at the band. We are very old, but all the others are students at the University Hassan Segin. The conflict resolution education. So please, with character education, we can resolve a lot of problems. Conflict is natural, it's natural. So conflict is natural. All the people, animals, all the creature of the world can have conflicts. Vital part of life. When conflict is understood, it can become an opportunity to learn and create. The challenge for people in conflict is to apply the principle of creative cooperation, of character education, to share and care. So who is the conflict with? So we have four types of conflict. Intrapersonal conflict with self. Sometimes you have problem with yourself and you have to solve the problem. Then you have interpersonal, it's a conflict between individuals. Then 3, intra-group, between members in a group, and intergroup, between groups. These are conflict resolution, which my colleague will dwell on, and I go because I don't have enough time. The skills, in skills we have two types of skills: intellectual skills, which are knowledge and understanding, critical thinking, problem solving, creativity. Then we have social skills, which are communication skills, team building skills, basic interrogation, and conflict resolution. All these skills should be tackled with. Then we have found 15 coping skill activities. So I distribute this activity to my student to work on and to deal with in the classroom. And all these activities coping this is a worksheet that provides 50 different coping strategies. These are strategies for students to try to solve problem. I usually provide my students with the list and then use a highlighter to highlight the different coping skills. Then we have 100 ways to promote character education, trustworthiness, responsibility, caring, and so. These are, I can send you all these, so I'm not going to read them. So the ones on red, we worked on them since 2012 with my students, with the members of the association. These are 100. I can't read them since I don't have enough time, so I can send them to you. Then we go to the strategies, and we have different strategies to resolve problems. Humor, you can be funny, happy, laugh at the problem, not the person. You are laughing when you laugh with the person, and you laugh at the problem. Chance, you decide who wins. So toss a coin, get help, compromise, take turns, share, avoid problems. Then this conflict is the social skills, and so on. Then I can show you some books which tackle educating for character education for kids, conflict resolution, character education, managing conflict resolution and peace education in Africa. Thank you for your time.
Just on time. Thank you so much, Mr. Zahawi.
I have the clock in front of me.
Great job. Yes, absolutely.
Grazie. Thank you.
As good teachers, we need to be our best selves, right? To be respectful, responsible, trustworthy, fair, and good citizens. So we have some questions here.
Sure.
First question from Mr. Dani Rashid. These are good quotations, but what should we do to implement this culture of good behavior in our schools?
What can we do?
To implement this culture of good behavior in our schools.
Okay, so I have given different types. I can send. He can just give me his email. I will send him all the different strategies and skill we can do. So at the university, it depends. If he's a middle school, high school, university school, different. The activities are different. I have thousands of activities, so you have to be calm. You have to share with your students everything. So you have to delegate work. For me, I delegate even courses. The students are integrated in the courses. I give them lessons to do in the classroom. You have to involve them in the life of the, so these are not strangers. These are parts of the classroom. When you go to the classroom, you see students, they should be respected, they should be given responsibilities, delegate tasks, give them, you work them on Facebook, so technology is done for that. We have all faces post with Facebook's post with students. You work with them in the classroom, out of the classroom. You can even have tourism, cultural tourism. You can have excursion with your student. You can have design, you draw, you do a lot of things. When you see that your students are tired, you don't want any more lecture, so please don't lecture in classroom, please. You should practice, make so handmade opportunities. You give them work. The students want to work, because we have a problem with our students when they get their license or their master's or their PhD. They can't manage their learning. They learn a lot of words, but they can't act with these words. So we have, with character education, you give them actions, and actions speak louder than words.
Awesome. Yes, absolutely. Next question by Ali Bku. How soon should character education be introduced in Moroccan schools or Moroccan curricula? Yeah, that's the question. How soon should character education be introduced in Moroccan schools or Moroccan curricula?
Okay, so the problem is that when a teacher prepares his lesson or courses, he forgets about multiple intelligences. He forgets about different types of learners. He forgets about that students are coming here to learn, to get experience from life. It's not, because everything, the information is on the internet. Everything is on the internet. You can even, this presentation I gave is on the internet, but the how, the what is there, but the how. You have to become friend with your students. You have to advise them, to give them the opportunity to prepare them for the future. They need experience, they need inspiration. Ask people who are inspired, experienced, to come into your classroom, and with guests, invite people to come, to give students who were good at your class. You can invite them, and they can tell them how they succeeded. So it's practice makes perfect. The character education can be implemented in every course. You can, in the morning, you tell a group, so put teams in your class, respect whatever traits you choose. For instance, if you choose the traits we have in our association, the 6 traits, so you can have 6 teams. So this team is wearing t-shirts, yellow t-shirts, or just a ribbon around their head or around their hands, and so on and so forth, to make the difference in teams, but not in the behavior.
Exactly. Yeah, working in teams can be very, very helpful. Thank you so much, Mr. Bushaid Zahawi.
Yes,
your presentation was
for me. All the pleasure was for me.
Yeah,
but
your
you
presentation.
have built with you, Miss Rashida Gilzim. She is my master. She saved my life in 2002 because she signed my Fulbright papers to go to United States. Thank you very much.
Oh, amazing.
Mr. Gilzim is a love.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you so much for this energy. This is all we want in our webinars. Our next speaker is Mr. Hussein Qasras. Yeah, who is going to talk to us about 21st century skills, problem solving and coaching students in dealing with everyday conflicts. You have the floor, Mr. Hussein.
Yeah, thank you, our moderator, for moderating this international event. And I really enjoyed again listening to your presentations, Mrs. Hind. Her presentation was very inspiring. And Mr. Zahawi, his presentation is full of experiences, okay? That's really great. And it's gonna be a great, of a great help to our experienced and also novice teachers. All right, so my presentation will be about coaching, training students in handling conflicts in schools, okay? And what I observed is that we as teachers, we all the time teach the four skills: listening, reading, writing, and speaking. What about conflict skills, conflict resolution skills? These are very important in our everyday life because our learners, we have to equip them with the necessary skills. And one of these skills that we call 21st century skills is critical thinking or problem solving. So my presentation will be a kind of a demo lesson. For example, you are going to teach your learners a lesson about how to deal with the conflicts. So let me share with you my screen first. Okay, 1 second. All right, can you see now?
Yes, we can. Could you please make it full screen?
Yes, thank you. Just 1 second. All right, thank you. Good. So this is the 21st century skills, problem solving, coaching students in dealing with everyday conflicts. Students at home, they observe, they see conflict between father, mother, parents in general, between their brothers, sisters. Once they go to school, they see their colleagues fighting, and sometimes there is fight between teachers and learners. Once they go to the street, they observe and they see conflicts. In Ramadan, you know Ramadan, okay? When you go to the supermarket, you see a lot of conflicts. So this is the problem. We don't have only to teach our learners the four skills, as I told you in the beginning, but also conflict resolution skills. So this is the lesson that I use with my learners every year. I start with coaching my learners about dealing with conflicts. Okay. So here I start, or before I start, I'm gonna share with you first the objectives. And I'm gonna start here with what is conflict, different definitions, okay, different point of views. Conflict situations, I put my learners in conflict situations and I see how they can handle these problems. Then I provide them with the different conflict styles. Then we move to the how, the solution, the strategies of solving conflicts. And at the end, there is a practice. We take some actions, okay? So these are the aims or the objectives of my presentation. Good. All the time I start with this picture, and as you see, it's very funny. My learners enjoy looking at this. So here we have two guys fighting, and we have the third party, which is the teacher. Maybe the teacher doesn't know how to deal with this. So not only students need to know about how to resolve conflicts, but also our teachers need to be trained, okay? Because it's very difficult. We talk a lot about school violence. Look at the guy here with the glasses. He is just watching. There's another one here taking a picture or recording a video, like enjoying. It's a cinema or it's a film. And look here at the girl. She's maybe shocked or surprised. This is the real situation that we observe sometimes in our classes. Good. Now, I ask my learners, what is the first thing that comes in your mind when you hear the word conflict? So here is a kind of brainstorming. I want to know that my young learners, if they know something about conflict or not. Yet, very common. I have been teaching for 14 years. What I observe is that once they start with negative terms about conflict. They say like this. They say conflict is argument, conflict is war, conflict is disagreement, conflict is dispute, conflict is struggle, conflict is opposition. And I tell them, what do they have in common? And fast learners observe the situation, they say they are negative. And then I say, do you think that conflict all the time is negative? So they say, yes, teacher, there is only war, struggle. Then I tell them, no, please, I want you to think about conflict as something positive. I give them a piece of paper. Tell me now, give me some positive terms about conflict. Now I'm switching their negative thinking about conflict. The conflict is a war, conflict is argument, conflict is struggle, but conflict is something good also, okay? So here, I tell them what is conflict, because no two individuals have exactly the same expectations and desires. Conflict is a natural, this is the key word. It's very natural. Wherever you go, whenever you are, you will have problems. When you are born, you have a problem. Wow, you are crying for milk. Then your mom gives you milk. Then you are crying, there is something wrong with you. Then your mom takes you to the bathroom, okay? Then you go to school, problems, conflict, studies, okay? Then the exam, then you get a good mark, then you get a job, problems. Oh, I get a good job. I get married, then problems, children, electricity expenses. So conflicts are very natural, and our learners should know and should believe in this, that conflict is something natural, is part of our everyday life. So we don't have to think about it negatively. We have to think about it positively. Okay, good. Now I tell them conflict is good. Now give me some words. And they tell me about, they say conflict is respect. Conflict is about solutions, collaboration, agreement, understand. I say, now we agree. You are good students. You think positively. So when there's a problem, you have to face the problem, negotiate, talk, communicate, then you agree. When you agree, there is respect, there is understanding, there is collaboration. So don't all the time confront or avoid conflicts. Good. This is my point of view about conflict. So conflict is communication. We have a problem with someone. Communication is the key to solve the problem. Is openness. We have to be open-minded to different ideas, okay? Negotiation, okay? I forget, you forget, okay? Flexibility, we are discussing the issues. Learning, it's a learning opportunity. You are going to learn. We are different, but human, okay? Improvement, it's going to improve the situation. Collaboration, we work together to solve that issue. And of course is tolerance. Then I ask my learners, can you give me other words starting with C? They say collaboration or communication. About O, open-minded. N, nice, okay. F, etc. I'm trying again to switch on from being negative to positive when approaching or addressing conflicts. Then I put them in situations, and here we have two situations I give my learners. For example, number one, your colleague always frustrates you so much and you feel like you want to pull your hair, jump around the room and just scream out loud. So what would you do? How would you react? How would you resolve this issue? Number two, your student, the teacher here, your student who sticks vehemently to making troubles and refuses to be quiet. So I put them in situation. This is situation number one for students and situation number two for if you are training teachers. And then you see if they have an idea about resolving conflict or not, because conflict resolution is a skill that we have to learn about. Good. Now, the basic conflict size, there are three basics: confrontation, avoidance, or collaboration. So all the time when I'm coaching my learners, I take the chair and I put in the middle of the classroom and I say, now my students, imagine that the chair is the conflict. Imagine that the chair is the enemy. So how would you react? Would you avoid or confront or collaborate? Now I'm giving them choices. Some they say, no, boxing, confrontation. Some say, no, teacher, I can't, I'm gonna avoid. Others, I'm gonna communicate. Now we are giving them other options. These are the conflict styles to know about. Good, then I tell them what's the best style. Is it to confront or to avoid or to collaborate? All of them, they choose different styles. Some they say, I'm gonna confront, others I'm gonna avoid, etc. But at the end, what do we say? There is no perfect style, but it depends on the situation you are in. Then you can choose the right style. Good. Now, our students, now they know the destructive conflict and constructive, positive and negative. Then they know the different styles. Now we provide them with the strategies, the how to resolve conflicts. And here there are three strategies: this I statement, active listening, and problem solving. I'm going to go quickly. So I statement. Now, if you discuss with your students their issues, they will say, teacher, Muhammad, yeah, you, Muhammad, you are the reason behind this problem. You were the, you, all the time starting with you. So blaming you statement, because you, when you start with you are blaming and you are increasing conflicts. You are not solving, you are not decreasing. Now, I tell them, I train them, I coach them to switch. Please, when you have a problem with another student and when you want me to listen to you, you start with the I. So I, empowering statement. So when you start with the I, number one, it means you are also part of the problem. You are also taking responsibility. Number two, the person who are listening to you, they are going to listen actively because you say, I am the reason. I'm also, etc. Okay, so switching from you to I. Here I gave them some situations. For example, you haven't finished your task, which has put the project so far behind schedule. How do you feel? We feel that we are blamed. We feel that we are the reason behind this problem. You keep annoying me. You keep making troubles. So here we are not resolving the problem. Now, let's switch to I. I feel frustrated that this project is so far behind schedule. The other person, of course, is going to accept because you start with the I statement. And the I statement's purpose is to decrease conflict. I get easily annoyed by a lot of distractions. Let's go back here. You keep annoying me. You keep annoying me. But here, I get easily annoyed. You see how the I is very powerful. The I can change the atmosphere. Okay. All right.
Yes,
Now here,
absolutely. Mr. Hussein, you have 10 minutes left.
great. Thank
Go
you.
ahead.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thanks. So here the I statement that we have to teach our learners, even our parents. We are learned from our parents. You, انت درتي هذا المشكل. You are the reason behind. And then when we want to react, we want to resolve issues or conflict, we say also you. Now let's switch. Okay, starting with the I. So the I is less threatening. And it's self-awareness. It means I'm also, okay, there is an issue. I'm also responsible, personal responsibility. And the most important, decreasing conflict. Now, the you statement, you are the reason behind this problem. Me? Don't say you, okay. So you are increasing the conflict. So blaming, increasing anger, and escalating conflict. So please coach your learners to use the I instead of the you. Good. And then I give them some examples to work on. Here is a practice. You broke the computer. Reframe. The computer is broken and I'm scared. We, responsibility, all of us, we won't meet our deadline. Then I give them some practice. You make me angry. Now, can you reframe? Start with I. You are incapable of understanding. No, the audience who are following us, please, can you just reframe this? You make me angry. Start with I. Just write in the chat box. Then you are incapable of understanding. So if you start with I, you are indirectly decreasing the conflicts, and you are taking charge of that problem. Good. The second strategy is active listening. And I still remember I have read an article very interesting that Nelson Mandela, and we all do believe that Nelson Mandela is one of the most famous leaders. If you go to every country, you will see that there is a leader in this country. But we all agree, the whole world agree that Nelson Mandela is a great leader. One day a journalist asked him, what's the reason behind being a leader and all the world, okay, admits that? Nelson Mandela said, when I was a child, I used to go with my dad, and my dad was one of the members of the tribe. And we used to go on the weekend, and we used to sit like a circle here, and we were talking about the issues. And I was with my dad, and I observed that my dad was the last to talk, the last to talk. He was listening, because if you want to know about the needs and wants of your tribe, you have to keep listening. This is what we have to do with our learners. When we have a problem, we don't listen to each other. My mother, my father, my friends, my neighbors, they speak at the same time, okay? They talk at the same time. Then there is no active listening and there is no resolution. So here, I put my learners in situations, they play roles. Tips, number one, you listen politely, just listen. Use your body language and show that you are listening actively. Number two, ask questions for clarification. If you don't understand the problem that your partner is talking about, ask questions. Number three, you have to repeat what was said in your own words. Why you have to repeat? Because this means that you are listening actively. Number four, you summarize what your friend said. And number five, you acknowledge speaker's point of view or feelings. Here we improve our learners' active listening. So I put them in situations, role plays, they talk, and then I tell them to repeat these tips. Did you listen politely? What did you use? What kind of questions, etc. So please, once you are dealing with problems, especially in the classroom, yeah, try to help your learners to be active learners. Now, problem solving. Yeah, we have to solve the problem. How? Number one, choose an appropriate time and place. You cannot resolve the problem in public. Choose the right place, maybe privately, not public. There's a big problem if it is public or in public. And identify the problem. What is the problem exactly? Then brainstorm solutions and you agree on a solution and avoid a compromise or a win-lose solution. I'm the winner, he's the loser. You did not solve the problem because always you have to try for win-win situations, both winners, agreements. And then you respect the rights and values of others. So these are the tips if you want to encourage your learners to solve problems. Now, I show my students this picture. Oh, they are embarrassed. So what do you think? This is a difficult situation. How can you resolve? So your friend has got a bad smell. How can you approach him? How can you tell him you have a bad smell? He sits next to you, but he smells bad. Your colleague smells bad. Your neighbor smells bad. Your brother smells bad. But sometimes we try to avoid approaching difficult situations. And difficult situations are part of conflicts. So again, for the people who are following us on Facebook, how can you deal with difficult situation? Your friend smells bad. Would you tell him in public or in private? Would you tell him that? I still remember I asked my student this situation and one said, I'm going to take him or her to hammam. I said, no, it's not a good solution. You will take him to this time to hammam, but tomorrow it's the same, a bad smell. Another said, I'm gonna give him a gift, a perfume, but the perfume will I mean, at the end, there is no perfume. So here, it's very important to know about the strategies because we try to avoid dealing with difficult situations. So here, what's the difficult situation? Anything we don't want to talk about. My friend smells bad. I can't talk about it. I think it's embarrassing. It's an embarrassing situation. We usually worry what will happen if we do talk about it. And see, if we do talk about it, we usually think and feel a lot more than what we actually say. And at the end, we avoid talking about difficult situations. And there is no win-win situation. Okay, good. Now, how?
Yes, sir.
Yeah,
You have 3 minutes left.
3 minutes. Thank you.
Go ahead.
I guess the last one. Now, handling difficult situations, when I'm coaching my learners, I said, number one, there is a big difference between addressing the problem in public and in private. The effective strategy in private. Don't tell them in front of everyone the problem. Number two, be direct. Don't avoid. Don't talk about indirectly. Your friend, your neighbor may not understand. Be direct. And the most important, empathy. Empathy, you put yourself in the situation of the other. Use very nice words. The words should not hurt the one who has that problem. Okay, so this is some strategies or some tips for handling difficult situations. Okay, at the conclusion, number one, conflicts are normal. Number two, don't focus only on the 4 skills, listening, reading, writing, speaking. No, you focus also on conflict resolution skills. Number 3, it's important to deal with conflicts positively, positive thinking. Number 4, productive conflicts can help both teachers and learners, motivating them in working better. And number 5, destructive conflicts need to be sorted so that it does not spoil the atmosphere of school by demoralizing others. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Hussein. Amazing presentation. Of course, yeah, conflict is something that we face on a daily basis. And what is most important here is our attitude towards these turmoils, these challenges, and these down moments that we face. You have a lot of questions. I think I'm going to send them in the chat room so that you can see them as well. I'm going to start with the first one by Mr. Abdestamir Al-Jbani. Sorry, I sent all the questions, but here, okay. So what are some ways by which we can promote or we can utilize some conflict solving techniques? What are some ways by which we can promote some conflict solving techniques? Do you understand the
All
question?
right. Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah, I do believe that we all as educators, we have faced challenges and sometimes conflicts in the classroom, okay? But the most important is how to deal. So the beginning is very important. The first contact with your learners that we call the code of conduct or classroom principles. You have to train and to teach your learners what they have to do and what they should do and what they should not do, and you have to stick to them. What I do with my students, number 1, I listen to them. I win their hearts by listening to my students. When someone is upset or embarrassed or thinking, I give the lesson, I tell my students to copy the lesson, and they go to him or her. Yeah, what's the problem with you? Yeah, no problem. Just share with me. So here I'm establishing a good relationship with my learners, active listening. Number 2, when there is a problem, number 1, ignore. Number 2, ignore. Number 3, you have to address the problem in a very tactful way. You can, for example, invite the students to go outside. You go both outside the classroom and you talk a little bit. Yeah, I respect you. You are my learner. I want something good for you. Okay. So please, I'm the teacher. I'm like your father. So please just keep quiet. Okay. And no problem. If you have any problem, share it with me. So listening to your learners, this is the best of the best when it comes to dealing with conflicts.
Yes, moving on to the second question by Ali Bekou. To what extent can teachers change a learner's perspective about conflicts, knowing that the character of that learner is socially grounded in in a milieu where conflict is the norm? Yeah, here in Morocco, sometimes the conflict is actually the norm. In some places, how can we deal with that?
All right, so it's very interesting, especially with learners. You have to put them in situations, playing roles, role plays. I tell them, did it happen to you? Did it happen to you when you have a problem with your friend? You didn't like him, and sometimes you fought with him, but at the end, he or she is your best friend. They say, yes, teacher. Yeah, my friend, I didn't like him in the very beginning, but we had a fight. Then we resolved the problem. Then there was some kind of communication, and now we are best friends. I said, this is the positive things behind conflicts. So here we have to train our learners, because learners, the problem is that they learned these things from their parents. Their parents is the way. Listen to me. Don't talk to me, okay? So parents don't handle conflicts in a very constructive way, okay? All the time they are using the power. I have experience. I'm older than you. Now in my classes, I try to give importance to my learners. Okay, and I show them some videos, I put them in situations, okay, I give them some examples, best examples of resolving conflicts, and these situations really help, learners. And the most important is consistency when you are training your learners to resolve conflicts. Okay.
Yes, since we don't have much time, I think we will just skip
Thank you.
the next questions, and maybe at the end, if we have any more time, we could discuss them. Yes, so thank you so much, Mr. Hussein. Our next
My pleasure.
speaker is Ms. Rashida Gilzim. The floor is yours, and looking forward to it. Actually, many people in the comments are waiting for you to start talking.
Thank you very
Yes,
much.
go
Thank
ahead.
you. Thank you. I think we have 20 minutes, right? Asma, we have 20 minutes.
20
Okay.
minutes, yes.
Sidi Hussein, can you share my presentation? First, thank you very much for organizing this. Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody all over the world. My friends in Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, Ireland, everywhere. I'm so happy to be here now with my friends and colleagues. Bushaib, it's always a pleasure to hear you. It's fantastic. You always boost people, and you always really you are an example to follow. So first thing, Hussein, can you move to the next slide, please? So I put this in very big because what I want to share with you first is that conflicts can happen any time in the class. I'm going to be more down to earth. I'm going to talk to teachers or maybe novice who even have a lot of experience. But look, conflicts can happen any time of the class and for no obvious reason. Therefore, in this presentation, what we're going to tackle together, we're going to look at we're not going to look at the causes because we know them, but we're going to be positive. We will look at some possible solutions to disruption and conflicts that take place in the classroom. Do we agree? And this is very important because my friends have tackled that in a very nice way. So let's move to the next slide, Hussein. There are two parts in this presentation. Number one, we're going to talk about some tips to use to avoid conflicts and disruption in the classroom. So first of all, we, as the Egyptians say, we are going to show that if you start your lessons and your school year on a very good basis, then a lot of things can be avoided. And the second part of this presentation will be about some possible solutions to resolve conflicts and disruption when they occur during the class. Next, Sidi Hussein. So number one, first tip to avoid disruption. Go, yes, go Hussein. Number one, go on. You should and you must always maintain visual contact with all the students in the class. Just make sure that you can see all your students and they can see you. If I remember, I was a teacher in a French school, and the minute I turned around, I had all the pieces of chalk on my head and all the pieces of paper flying over my head. So don't ever lose that visual contact with your students. So to avoid all problems, maintain visual contact. Next, Hussein, number two, make yourself heard. A teacher with a very low voice cannot avoid all conflicts, a lot of conflicts and a lot of disruption in the classroom. Just do it at home. Try to imagine that you're a rock and roll singer, and your voice has to be really high, and you have to, that's one of the most important tips to avoid conflict and disruption. Number three, Hussein, number three, ensure students can see your gestures and the body language that you're using. Even if you are too short like me, it's okay. Wear high heels or try to find ways that all your students can see you. They must feel that you are there, that you have a lot of weight in that classroom. So remember, they should ensure that your students can see your gestures and the body language that you are using, because that's a very nice way of communicating with your students. So remember that's very important. Next, number four. This is a very nice tip. If you want to avoid a lot of conflict, and knowing your students' names is just a fantastic way of showing that you are in control of the situation. Remember, and I'm talking not only to novice teachers, but to everybody, when you know your students' names, they know that you know them. So please remember, this is one of the things that you can use to avoid conflicts and disruption in the classroom. Remember, this is very nice. Number 5. So there are 10 rules, and I want you to remember them, and we will send them to you by email. That's no problem. So always try to find ways of moving the students in pairs and groups. Don't let the same people sit with the same people all the time. Remember that when you make people sit with different people, you know, they can see that you mentioned respect, you mentioned a lot of things. They can learn from each other, and they can learn how to deal with each other. So remember, use all sorts of interactions in the classroom: mingle, pair work, group work, individual work, all sorts. Don't stay with the same interaction, but use all sorts of interactions so that they know that you are in control of the situation. What you are doing is you are avoiding all sorts of things when you put your students in different interactions. Next, Hussein. Contact with all the students. Some people, and I know that a lot of teachers have some pet students, you know, those students who like you and say, "Oh, teacher, I love you." They say that. It exists all over. It's universal. It's universal. And there are some students who make, you know, they're unlovable. You can't say that you can love them. But I always say this to my trainees: when you go into the classroom, love them. Have some contact with them. They must feel that you like them, that you love them. If they feel that it's the opposite, then you are in trouble. They will do the same. They will hate you, and they will make your life hell. So always remember that when you are in the classroom, you love your students. Love them. And this was a tip by one of my Australian teachers that I had way back in 1980, 82. She was Australian. Said, "Rashida, if you want to be in charge, in control of your class, love your students. Love your students." And I'm really I want you to do the same. When they feel that you love them, then half of the problem is gone. So remember that. Number 7. Next. Providing when you're dealing with in the classroom, you're doing something, remember, you have to cater for everybody. Don't let down some students at the expense of others. So make sure that you have enough handouts so that not somebody takes one, the other doesn't take one, and then the conflict starts. So make sure that you are in control of the situation. When you distribute, when you do things, remember that if you have 35 students, have 35 and distribute to everybody. If you have 45 students, make sure that when you're distributing or you're doing an activity, everyone, fairness is very important here. So make sure that everybody gets a handout or whatever, a photocopy or anything that you are doing in the classroom. Next, number 8, ensure students can be seen and heard by others in the room when they are answering questions individually. So sometimes, one student is answering and the other, so they don't listen to each other. Some students get offended. You get angry, and here starts a conflict. Here starts some sort of problem that you don't need in your classroom. You are here to teach. You're not here to cater for a lot of problems. You are there to teach. So ensure that students, make sure, as I said, remember this at the beginning, make sure that you set up the rules at the beginning. So make sure that you have some basis to start on, to work on, and to live on in the classroom. So make sure that your students listen to each other. Number 9, give clear instructions to the whole class. Don't forget that when you give clear instructions, and even if you have to repeat them, everybody listens to you. You give clear instructions, they listen to you. If you have some questions, they can ask you questions. But at the beginning, give instructions, and I would even say model the answer. Give a model, give an example, so that even those slow students who do not understand quickly can understand. So remember, clear instructions from the beginning to the whole class, not only part, but to the whole class. Number 10 golden tips: regaining students' attention at the end of a noisy activity. Remember, when you're doing an activity, a group work activity, a game or something, here starts a problem. Here, getting to the normal situation is a little bit difficult. So here, make sure that you are a connoisseur, that you have some savoir faire, So get all your students back to normal. I usually use the magic hand. I don't know if some people know about me and my magic hand. I often use my magic hand when everybody had to put their hand up. Everybody goes silent and back to normal, back to the class. All right. So these were my 10 golden rules that you have to use to avoid disruption and conflict. Now, let's move to the next part. The second part is some possible solutions to resolve conflicts and disruption when they occur during the class. This happens to me as a teacher. I've been teaching since 1982, and I'm still a teacher at the American Language Center. And look, it can happen. It can happen to anybody, to the most proficient, the most experienced teacher can have some sort of problem inside the classroom. So here are 10 golden rules to resolve conflicts and disruption. And while all my friends here, my colleagues were talking, they brought up a lot of nice ideas, very nice ideas, very nice principles to cater for conflicts in the classroom. Now, number one, for me, you should and you must reward good behavior all the time. Whether at the beginning of lessons or after an activity, make sure that you put your students up there. So, whoa, you've been wonderful. Whoa, so we're going to have a song at the end of this lesson. Or, yes, how about a game, etc., etc. Give them, from time to time, 1 point, 2 points, it makes them happy. Makes them happy. So reward if they have behaved well, if they have come up with a solution to a conflict very quickly, reward them. Don't be. I always bring chocolate and sweets in my classroom, and they are happy when I give them a sweet or a chocolate. Even the big ones, even adults, they love it when you give them a chocolate. So reward. Next, number 2, Hussein. From your first lesson, you need, to set a routine of how to allow the students to speak to you and to speak to each other, and how to stop the whole class. If there is no respect, and Mr. Zahawi has talked about respect, Hind has talked about respect, Mr. Khasiras has talked about respect. Look how important this word is. And I think when you use respect, there are a lot of things that you can either solve problems with or avoid problems with. So remember, the way they talk to you must be respectful. The way you talk to them must be respectful. The way they talk to each other must be respectful. I swear to God, when there is disrespect in the classroom, there is no problem. There is a lot of problems that can be avoided. Number 3, Mr. Hussein. This is very important for me. I think that all the time, rule number 1, if you say it, you must do it. If you promise something, please remember that you have to do it. If you say you have been good, we're going to have a song, then you do the song. If you say, well, this time I think your test was good, so we're going to have, always be somebody that we can trust, that can be given as a model, that people say, oh, when she says that, she will do it. I know, but if you are the opposite, then they say, even if you don't do your homework, she won't do anything, because you have never been that person who says something and does it. So you must really, if you say something, stick to it, and you must do it. Next one, Hussein. This is also an important thing. Don't ever talk if they're talking, because it's only time. You waste time, you waste your energy, and this might lead to a lot of problems inside the classroom. So remember, always install silence, because you want them to listen to you. And when they're listening, when they're talking, you listen to them, of course, because there's a reciprocity in the respect here. There's reciprocity. When one student is talking, the others have to listen. You cannot have a class where everybody is talking at the same time. Somebody was talking about, I think Zahawi was talking about, we don't listen to each other. It's true. That's one of them. So please, one of the things that you can urge your students to do is really to listen to each other. Listen to you, listen to them, and listen to each other. Number 5.
Yes, Miss Rashida, you have 4 minutes left.
Yeah, okay. Never lose your cool. Always be calm, stay calm, focus on the behavior, and don't argue. If you have a problem, you solve it at the end of the lesson. Don't do it inside within the class, okay? Next, number 6. One of the things that you have to do, as we said from the beginning, is plan and post your rules and procedures from the beginning. Okay, like you have a contract, you say, okay, if you are late, this is what you have to do. If you made a mistake or you have been disrespectful, this is what you have to do, etc., etc. So please don't just try to do this at the beginning of the year with your students, and you'll see it helps, especially if you have young learners. It's very, very, very important. Okay, next, number 7. Plan your lessons well and have a backup plan in case you run short. One of the original problems sometimes is electricity is not working, your computer is not working. There is something. Always have plan B, and always plan your lessons. A good teacher is someone who plans and who creates and who is creative and who improvises if there is a problem. Next, number 8. An active, busy, focused classroom will have fewer problems than an unstructured, random classroom. Remember, if you keep your students busy, if you give them activities, if you help them to work all the time, you'll see you will never have a problem, I assure you. Next, number 9. You can always loosen up if you start more structured. Always set the rules before. You will have real problems if you try to structure a loosened up environment. Don't start very loose and then try to really be more strict. Always the opposite. Start strict and loosen up as you go on, during the school year. Remember, don't start very loose and you want to be strict more. Next one, number 10. I love this one. You set the tone and the environment for the classroom. You are the boss. You are the king and you are the queen in the classroom. You are the ones who can make either your class an enjoyable classroom or a miserable classroom. Now, one more thing I would like to share with you, and Hussein, the next one, the last lesson. I would like you to look at this one, and I would like you to do it with me. The teacher's look. Good. Can you show it to us? Yeah. The last lesson. You know that? Can you do it, everybody? Can you have that look of the teacher who says, okay, look, I am not that easy. You think I'm easy? I'm not that easy. Okay. So look, can you go on, Sir Hassan? The last. Practice in the mirror and with each other until you can do it in demand without smiling. This look will stop disruptive behavior and conflict before it becomes a problem. Last slide, Sir Hassan. Remember, these were only a few tips for a conflict-free classroom. But a piece of advice from me, as an experienced teacher and someone who loves teaching, keep them busy, or they will keep you busy. Remember this one. Keep them busy, or they will keep you busy. Thank you very much. I hope you enjoyed this. I would like to recommend this video. It's called the Teddy Stallard story about the students and the problems in the classroom. Please, if you have, you can just Google it and go onto it. It's a beautiful video, and you will understand why I'm recommending it. Thank you very much, everybody, and I hope I haven't been boring, and I hope that these tips will help you in your career and your classroom. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Ms. Rashida. It seems that everybody in the comments wants to express their appreciation and great gratitude for your inspiring presentation. You gave us effective strategies. Thank you so much. Planning out classes are important. Using gestures, eye contact, and knowing our students' names. This is very, very important. It helps the student to get motivated and
it's only details, but they have the importance. Yeah, you see,
exactly.
It's only details, but every detail has its own importance within the class.
Exactly. Yes, absolutely.
Practical. I know that a lot of people have a lot of things to say, but I just wanted to share a few tips with future teachers, novice teachers, old teachers, whatever. But I hope that this was interesting for
Yes.
some people.
I'm going to ask you just a few questions. I have selected them. Okay, so Yusuf said, how can we gain students' attention after a noisy activity?
What can I answer very quickly?
Yes, very quickly. Yes, please.
I've used this beautiful way of putting everybody put their hand. It's called the magic hand. So you get everybody to put their hand up, but to close their mouth. Don't have students, put their hand like and talk to the others. Don't accept that. Okay. As soon as they put their hand up, everybody has to go. Okay, silent, and you'll see. I swear to God, it works. And I've been using it in Libya, in Algeria, in Tunisia, in Morocco, everywhere, and everybody loves it. They say, Rashida, you have saved our lives. So instead of banging on the door or the desk, try the magic hand. It's very nice. That's one of the things I do. Okay.
Yes, thank you so much. We have so many other questions, but we cannot go over them all. Thank you so much, Ms. Rashida. Let's move to our last speaker, Ms. Courtney Erwin. Thank you so much for joining us, and please go ahead. The floor is yours.
السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. شكرا جزيلا لصديقي الحسين على هذه التجربة الرائعة لمناقشة هذا الموضوع المهم جدا. وفعلا الشرف لي أن أنضم إلى هذه الحلقة مع زملائي وأصدقائي من كل أنحاء العالم. علي أن أتكلم بالعربية تقديراً للجهود المبذلة لأصدقائي للتكلم بالإنجليزية اللغة الثانية أو اللغة الثالثة أو اللغة الرابعة لهم، لكن ممكن في المرة المقبلة أنا سألقي كلمة كاملة بالعربية، لكن اليوم أنا سأتكلم بالإنجليزية. So just pardon my mistakes in Fusha, but I will continue to speak in English. Also, I don't have a PowerPoint because I'm horrible at creating PowerPoints. So I will just talk a little bit and hopefully not talk for too long, but I'm so delighted to be a part of this. And I have learned so much just in these 2 hours from my beautiful, wonderful colleagues. And in fact, I've been, of course, taking notes. And first and foremost, it's delightful that Martin Luther King Jr. and Gandhi have already been quoted, some of my idols in life. And I think that a lot of what I will talk about will reinforce what my colleagues have talked about already, which I think is it's good pedagogy, right? So, to have the same ideas come back and to hear them over and over again. So, talking about social and emotional intelligence and skills and character building. And also I love the idea that conflict isn't just negative, it's positive. I mean, we are human beings and we interact with each other and there is conflict. That's a fact of life. And the emphasis on listening and the emphasis on practical tools, right? And I love the discussion about respect, but the discussion that I love the most, Lala Rashida, is about love, right? Love and going into the classroom and being loving and being kind. And I cannot emphasize that enough, but I'm going to emphasize it a little bit in my discussion now. So, what in the world is a lawyer like me doing with a group of brilliant and beautiful educationalists? Well, that actually was a question I asked myself I guess, 10 years ago when I moved to Qatar to lead a legal program in a foundation there that focused on the protection of education during times of conflict. So how can law protect students, teachers, schools, and universities in the most extreme and negative circumstances of conflict and insecurity? And I was surrounded by educationalists. And I learned that, you know, you wouldn't need lawyers like me to come in if the world's education systems, every single one of them, were designed based on principles of unity and compassion and love, and also seeing the other, the person in front of us, be it an 8-year-old student or a 70-year-old minister, as ourself, right? And that each person has in them and in their heart this beautiful, I'd say, divine light. And that our job is to connect the divine light that's in our heart with the divine light that's in theirs. So as a legal advocate then, I've spent a lot of time trying to figure out how the law can protect these schools and teachers and students. And one of the most meaningful projects that I worked on is called the Safe Schools Declaration, which is an international agreement that over 100 different states around the world have now signed. And it provides very practical ways to protect schools and universities and teachers and students in times of conflict and security. And one of those provisions that we included in the Safe Schools Declaration was a requirement that every state that signed this declaration, that it required all of their schools, that it required their education system to include conflict-sensitive education, or education, you can call it conflict resolution education. You could call it learning to live together education, right? Because we as lawyers knew and know that hopefully you won't need us and you won't need the law to solve these conflicts if the students and teachers are themselves learning how to live together and implementing these principles and these practices in every classroom around the world. So how do you do that? And I'm going to talk just for a little bit about two different levels, because I want to answer that question with stories. And the first story will talk about the individual, and then the second story is going to talk about the community, because from my perspective, schools and the entire education system are these laboratories, right? These laboratories where both knowledge transfer happens, but then you also are living that knowledge and practicing it and creating these communities where you're actually applying the theories that you're learning. So the first story that I want to tell is it's not my story. It's a story from a friend of mine who spent, I think, over 40 years as a principal in a large high school in Seattle, Washington, where I'm from. And there was a little boy, well, not so little, a high schooler who was getting into fights all the time and disrupting the class. And every teacher complained and talked and spoke with the principal. And every time the kid, punched somebody in the classroom, the kid came to the principal's office. And the principal could have taken a very punitive position and could have punished him and could have expelled him. But instead, she got down to his level, again, speaking to his heart, trying to figure out what was going on, and asked him why he was doing this. And asked him what was going on. And as we've heard with our previous colleagues, like asked him about his feelings and really tried to find out who he was and what was going on. And they had a conversation where they were going to problem solve this together. The principal of the entire school and the kiddo. And she said, so they were talking about it, and she was like, well, what about if, do you think it would help? Like when you're feeling this way, it sounds like you're, so upset. What if we put a punching bag, like the bags that the boxers use, right? What if we put a punching bag and we put it right over there in that room next to my office? And I'll talk to your teachers. And anytime you start to get angry, you can just walk out of the class without raising your hand. You just walk out of the class and you can just come to this room and you can use that punching bag. And what do you think? And he said, well, I guess it wouldn't hurt to try. So she spoke to all the teachers and she installed the punching bag. A couple of days go by. One day she's sitting there and she hears the door open and she hears, poof, 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 poof. He's coming in and he's using the punching bag. Maybe a couple of days later, she hears the same thing. He comes in and he's using the punching bag. After a couple of weeks, she talked with the teachers and they said that he no longer was hitting kids in the class and that mechanism had helped him. Now, someone could say this is only one person, right? This is only one student. However, I have two other stories about helping just one person. First of all, there's a story in the Buddhist tradition where all these starfish came out of the ocean, and all the starfish were gonna shrivel up and die. And this old man went out and was taking one starfish at a time and throwing them back into the ocean. But there were thousands and thousands of starfish. So a younger kid came up and asked him, hey, why are you doing this? You're not gonna save all these starfish. You're not making a difference. What's the point? And the old man took a starfish and threw it in the ocean and said, well, it matters to that one. Took another one, threw it in the ocean. It matters to that one too. And I also think of another story out of Morocco of Mulay Abdeslam ibn Mashish, right here in Morocco, who was in the mountains all by himself, right? This great sheikh with all this knowledge. And he had one student and only one student. And that was a Shadali, right? A Shadali who went out and found all of the turuq and changed the world. Just one person, one student. So I think that working at the individual level can change lives and can change systems. So, oh my gosh, 11 minutes. I'm keeping track too, Asma. So I'm gonna make sure I end in time. I would also say that the other thing is when you're dealing with individuals and you're asking again yourself first. And I'll provide another Gandhi quote to this discussion, which is the famous quote of "Be the change that you wish to see in the world." Right? How do you in these moments, and we talked about this notion of modeling and this notion of how do you deal with disruptive and experiences and conflict? Well, you yourself model the good comportment. You yourself model the behavior. In the United States, a lot of folks kind of say, in a situation of hot conflict or a situation of difficulty, what would Jesus do? Right? You should ask yourself in that moment, what would Jesus do? And here in Morocco, in my life, I like to say, النبي معنا. نعم النبي بجانبنا هنا. So what would the prophet do if he were sitting right next to us in this moment, right? And to have that image with you at all times. So now I want to move from the individual to the community, because we as individuals, I think sometimes we put all this pressure on ourselves and we think that we have all this willpower, and it starts again. It starts that we want to be the change that we wish to see in the world, but that's only one piece of it, because We operate in community, and in the classroom and in education, we're operating, in community throughout the day. And so, the education system creates certain conditions. And I've got about 5 minutes, right? That's not. So I'll be quick. So
you still have you still have 7 minutes.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Okay, so in the school, we're in a particular community, and the conditions around us are really influential. We could have the strongest willpower on earth, but we would still be influenced by these external conditions. And that comes from the field of behavioral science, especially if you want to look into that, which says that like the conditions around us nudge us in certain directions, right? And I listened to a podcast yesterday about police brutality, right? Because right now in the United States, I mean, it's an absolute crisis and a catastrophe and around police brutality and racism, which, as you know, we're seeing this now kind of spread around the world, the impacts of that. And in the podcast, it was talking about that the police departments have been given, or police and police departments have been given anti-bias training, tons of anti-bias training, so that they hopefully will not, shoot people, and all of us do a ton of trainings and lectures, and we hear the theory. But they actually found that those trainings, those anti-bias trainings, weren't very effective. And what was more effective, which is also what we've talked about already on this, in this discussion, is creating the conditions around the individuals, the police, like creating systemic conditions that encourage the well-being of each individual. So, for example, with the police, if police got more sleep the night before, and if they were encouraged to eat a good meal, and if they were doing well themselves, each one of them, and all of the conditions encourage them to do well and focus on their well-being, then their incidence of violence was reduced. So in a school setting, then what are the conditions that encourage the well-being, the true well-being of each student, each teacher, each administrator, so that this entire educational system is again a laboratory or a microcosm of well-being of every single one, so that the entire system is focused on the well-being of everyone. And I've got a couple minutes. I'll tell 2 stories and that's it. I spent time teaching 6th grade in a tiny little village in Malawi, in the country of Malawi in sub-Saharan Africa. Now, the conditions in that little village in the school were pretty poor. There were no chairs, so everybody sat on the floor. There were no notebooks. There were no books. I had a chalkboard, sometimes some chalk. And also when I arrived, there was no breakfast for the kids. So the kiddos were eating 1 meal a day, just dinner. And these kids, and there was, conflict. There was hot emotions. And I thought, what can I do? And this links back to Lala Rashida's point. And I said, what kind of conditions can I create to make this situation better? And what I could do was I could be loving, and I could be sweet and kind, and I could love each one of them, and I could look them in the eyes as they came in every day and hug them, right? Because I love the Maya Angelou quote, the great quote by Maya Angelou, the poet laureate in the United States. People forget what you say, people forget what you do, but people don't forget how you made them feel, right? So that was the one way that I was able to do my best to create some loving and wonderful conditions in the classroom. Okay, 1 minute. So one of those important conditions in the classroom that I tried to create was listening. And this notion, as we've talked about, of respect and listening, right? And I worked on, this is where now suddenly, weirdly, I'm going to link the law back to education and why you're having a lawyer participate in this event. I did a project, a UN project in a number of countries, but one of those countries was in Egypt. And I was in a school in Nasr City, in an elementary school. And the school, again, the conditions were bad. The kids, there was a ton of violence in the school, violence between the students and the teachers, again, elementary students. And they did a rights of the child, right to education project, just as a project for the kiddos. And in that project, they created councils, human rights councils. Again, these are like 9-year-olds. And they decided that the most important right of the child that they wanted to work on and focus on was the freedom of expression. And they thought, how can we actually implement this like lofty human right, freedom of expression, right? And the 9-year-olds decided, well, how can we express ourselves? We can draw how we're feeling. We can draw what we're thinking, and we can put it in pictures, and then we can talk about it. And these kiddos drew their feelings, and they drew about what they couldn't before have talked about. And it opened up these lines of communications where the kids then, when they explained their pictures, were talking to the teachers, and they were talking to themselves. And what they found was that the incidence of violence reduced dramatically, and the achievement went up, and everyone, the teachers and the students, were much happier together, because they changed these conditions and they opened up these channels of expression and listening and hearing each other. Okay.
Yes.
I'm gonna end there. So thank you so much. It's a pleasure to be with you guys today.
No, thank you. Your stories were incredible. And everyone in the comments, everybody is telling you how amazing you are as a storyteller. And actually, guys, from the who are watching us on Facebook, storytelling is an amazing technique to hook your students. So in your introduction, in your presentation, in the warm-up, tell them stories, and they're going to be very interested. Thank you so much, Ms. Courtney Irwin. I bet we all learned a lot from your incredible stories. There is one question that I found really interesting from Abstamir Jbani. Okay, so students in Europe and America experience immensely tense situations in their schools. Let's say bullying. How, as a lawyer, do you manage to get rid of these repeated habits? Because, often they lead to committing suicide. I'm going to send you this question in the chat in order for you to read it again right away. Here it is.
Yeah, that's a really great question. And my experience is that, the law is there to provide protection, right? And it's to help protect you when no one else is able to protect you. And, on a purely legal side, if bullying is against the law, and you have a way that the law can be your advocate, you can use it as a tool. But I also, and this might not answer the question directly, but I'll try to. Part of that project that I did in Egypt, I also visited Palestine. I've been to Palestine a number of times, and I was actually in Al Khalil, right in Hebron. And I was in probably the worst, some of the worst educational settings around. And the kids that I talked with, had to walk through the street with different, subject to attacks by settlers and by army personnel. And it was an incredibly hostile, violent situation. And what emboldened them, and one way that the law helped them, which I think was so important, was that they had a program of a right to education program where they learned about their rights and what their rights were, and that these rights came from not Palestine, not Israel, not the United States, but these were above those states. These were rights, international human rights, that they knew that there was an international system that cared about them and that granted them these rights, and that they were their rights. And that alone, I think, gave them a sense of hope. And I never underestimate hope, but also a sense of power, that in the midst of this type of treatment and in the midst of this type of violence, I know it's wrong and I know it's against the law, and I will hang on to that, and that there at some point will be change, because I will educate myself and then I will work to implement those laws. So
Yes,
I'll leave it at that.
Thank you so much. I would like to thank you first, Ms. Courtney, for this amazing presentation and for everything that you said. I would also like to thank our followers from the 4 different continents, Europe, Asia, America, and Africa. Thank you all for attending. And we surely had an amazing time with our speakers and you guys. The questions that you raised are very, very important. Thank you for your active interaction. Now let's move to the discussion. Yes, Mr. Hussein, could you unmute yourself?
Yeah.
Yes.
Hello
So,
again. Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, let's have a discussion good about conflicts, especially in educational setting. It was really very interesting again to see these wonderful presentations, guest speakers sharing their experiences, expertise in this issue, which is conflicts. Yeah, for me, when we talk about conflicts, as I said in my presentation, the most important thing with my learners is just to change the idea of being negative to conflict. We, as I'm talking here about Moroccan situation, students are coming from different backgrounds, but they are all affected by their parents. And their parents first need to know how to deal with conflicts, because their children, they are learned the negative things. I'm talking here about the how conflicts are solved, because children notice and observe their parents talk at the same time. The mother and the father talk at the same time. So there is no active listening. And the most important, there is physical violence. So for example, when the child comes to his mom, my mom, another neighbor hit me. The mother say, if he hits you, hit him. Okay, so here there is no, we talk all the time about physical reactions, not about listen to your child. What was the reason behind that? Why this happened? And then you teach him the how. So it's very important when we talk about resolving conflicts, our parents should also be trained about how to solve issues like this.
Yes, exactly, Mr. Hussein. Mr. Hussein, there is a question that raised that interested me earlier by Abdelmonaim, who said, "Don't you think that while teaching learners about how to positively view conflict, learners might be confused and confuse it with the idea of fighting isn't negative?"
All right, interesting. Yeah, it's an interesting question. Yeah, but this question is for everyone. Yeah.
Exactly.
The importance is to train them, train learners the positive effects behind resolving conflicts. Teach your learners that conflict is something negative. Yes, we agree. But why we all the time view it only as something negative? But there are the positive sides that we neglect. But here, as a teacher, we have to be consistent. When you are training our learners how to resolve conflicts, when you put them in situations, the teacher should choose topics based on disagreement. Okay, then you give them role plays. And then you tell them, do you remember the strategy that we talked about, the I, okay, and the you, okay? So consistency is the key to implement or to help your learners to resolve conflicts.
Yes,
Can I add something?
absolutely.
Rashida?
Yes, sure.
Can I add something? I would like just to point to two things. Number one, concerning the listening, and when that you mentioned Hussein a few minutes ago, we should take into consideration that first we are Arabs, we are Mediterranean, and we are also, we have so many sort of things in our blood.
African.
And so we tend not to listen to each other. I mean, I'm sure that in Algeria and Hind is the same. We do not listen to each other. We interrupt each other. We talk and we discuss.
At the same time.
We get anything from that, what we in our discussions, but it is true that it's part of our character, of the temperament of Mediterraneans, of Arabs, of I'm not going to say Muslims because it's a different thing, but us, as part of this nation, and also as North Africans. North Africans also have their own little thing, like Tunisians, Moroccans, and Algerians have a lot of common points. So just to tell you that there is no harm in teaching our kids that, well, look, there is some ethics. When you speak, when you want to interrupt, you listen, you let people let you finish your sentence. I always have a problem with my family. Say, let me finish my sentence, just let me finish. And they don't let you finish, just let me finish. Can I finish my sentence? So that's one. And the other thing that you were talking about, Hussein, just 2 minutes ago, and I seem to forget, I really forgot what I was going to say. But anyway, you said that we have to train our students. It's true. We have
And
to
also
train
parents.
and I think it's the whole thing. I think it's all together. I was going to mention one thing that is important now. I taught in a French school, very famous in Rabat, and I know that I have a lot of friends who teach at the American school, and I was myself an exchange student in the US. They have an advisor in every, and correct me if I'm wrong, Courtney, in every school in America, there is an advisor. When you have a problem, you go to see the advisor. In France, and in the American French system, there is a CPE or something there. There's a person who solves problems. In Morocco, Allahu Alam, I have been working as a supervisor for 25 years, 30 years. I have never seen any advisors or anything. So we need, as teachers, our advisors, our parents, our policemen, our everything. We are everything. So we need, therefore, as Hussein said, we need at least to play that role and to train our students that, when there is conflict, there's always a solution, but we can do it very calmly, very nicely, with, in the end, one solution that could, make everybody happy. Yes, I'm sorry, I was too long. I'm sorry.
Okay, can I talk?
Sure.
Well, when I started my presentation, I talked about something Moroccan. When I was looking for, whenever, you know that I live in New York, in the United States. I am a permanent resident in the United States. You don't know, I know. I will tell you. Okay, I have just come before the confinement. So whenever we want to do a research or something, we don't find anything Moroccan. Look, did you find any book talking about conflict resolution education? Nothing. So it is high time. It's high time we started looking at our nations, our countries, be it Algeria, Tunisia, Libya, or Egypt. We have to work on that. We have to work on our students. Everything is brought from United States, from UK, from Europe. What's that? So let's talk, because in English we are more advanced. But let's talk about Arabic, French, anything. It's brought from the other countries. We have a nation, we have kids, we have students. Look, I'm doing a research on the impact of confinement on students. But the students are afraid to say what they feel about that. Distance learning, is it a piece of cake for us? What is the logistic? What are we used to do that? This is a conflict. Between now, we are living in another conflict between parents and private schools. This is a conflict. How are they going to resolve this problem? 2 weeks ago, the minister said that we are going to give you some money from this. Okay, but today I read in the newspaper that nothing is done. You have to go in conflict between parents and students. So we have to do research, and I'm advising our educators, our teachers, our supervisor to do it. We are doing things and we are bringing everything from outside to inside. It's impossible. This is a culture. Mrs. Gilzim talked about something very important. We have our specificities. We are Moroccan, we are Berber, Tamaziq, Tashilhi, Tarifit. We have a lot of we have 12 regions, and every region has its culture. So how can we deal with this? Not with the Americans' culture or the British culture or European culture, with Moroccan culture. Where are the references? Where are the resources? Do we have any books about that? We have supervisors, people. When you retire, you do nothing. I'm working a part-time teacher at the university, and one of the teachers went on retirement on 2012. What are you doing here? So please, when you retire, you are dead. You have nothing to do. No, it's not that. So we have to work for our country, for our nation, and we are going to do research that are concerning students, Moroccan students. I am not against diversity. Diversity, we live it 24 hours. We have diverse culture in Morocco. So this is a variety is the spice of life. Thank you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very
Tom?
eloquently said. Yes, go ahead, Ms.
Yeah.
Hind.
Yeah, thank you very much. So here, I would like to thank the participants. Thank you very much. It's a great experience to share such thoughts, different thoughts. I totally agree with Mr. Shuaib, I think, Shuaib.
Bushaib.
Yes. Bushaib, sorry, Bushaib. So I totally agree with Mr. Bushaib, and I would like to support his opinion or his conclusion with our curriculum here in Algeria as a case study. So here in Algeria, since 2015, the social scales and emotional scales and all these character or teaching about character have been included, but we are still struggling, or to say teachers still struggling on how to implement those social skills and how to teach them either implicitly or explicitly, because it is not clearly stated if they are to teach them explicitly as lessons or implicitly. So concerning problem solving resolution, it is not really stated clearly, but social skills and values are clearly stated that teachers have to teach them. From the presentation of Mr. Kersas and from the presentation of Mr. Bushaib, what I can conclude here that it will be a very important solution or very effective solution if problem resolution skills will be explicitly taught in the classroom practice. I mean, teachers can, or in the yearly plans, we can include some lessons about how to teach those skills of problem solving. I liked very much the idea of Mr. Kersas. I think in Morocco they teach it explicitly. Is that?
Yeah, thank you, Mrs. Hind. Yeah, I just want to share with
Yes.
you. 3 years ago, we set up a project, and the name of the project is Peace, because at that time, 3 years ago, there was a school violence rate was very high in Morocco. And you know, Saleh is the second biggest city of, the population after Casablanca. So the project was about, number one, organizing workshops, visiting schools, and we organize workshops based on peace building, conflict resolutions, cultural differences. And it really worked very well. For example, we observed that learners know nothing about conflicts. All of them, they see conflict something negative. Conflict is divorce, conflict is war, conflict is disagreement, okay? something very negative. Then we moved to organizing we said extracurricular events like competitions. For example, we gave it the name of Students Got Talent competition, because we observed that schools, there is that traditional way. The board, the teacher, the chalk or the marker. It's very boring for learners, and this creates issues and problems, okay? Now, when you create fun, when you create an enjoyable learning environment in the school at large, okay, you are at the same time solving conflicts or school violence, okay. Now, what we observed something very interesting. When we organized the Students Got Talent competition, it was based on public speaking, drawing, breakdance, theater, poetry. We discovered at the end that those who qualified to the final, 20 students qualified to the final, they were not good students in class. Can you imagine? The 20 students who qualified to the final were not good at, at their schools. They were troublemakers, low levels. So here we opened another door. It's thinking outside the box. So school is not about teaching, learning, but we have to mix. We have to have some fun, okay? And at the end, we set up a very good relationship with our troublemakers at those schools, okay? They really enjoyed the competition and they like it. So this is what we lack in our schools. We like that extracurricular activities. We need to add some fun in our schools. To decrease conflicts.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. For sharing experience.
One last word, if possible. One last word.
Yes.
Okay. The coronavirus has been a dreadful thing to happen, and it's negative, but we have learned so many lessons from this negative. It's a conflict. The coronavirus is a conflict, and it's a very good example to give your students. Look at what happened when the coronavirus, took place, and it was all over the world, not only in Morocco. So from March until now, all schools have been closed. All the kids were home. Look, everybody, you are teachers. You're going back in September, face to face. You will be having all those problems back again. I'm not being negative, but remember all these tips we have talked about. Remember all these problems we have talked about and the solutions we have offered you and suggested to you. Remember that nobody is perfect. And thank you, Courtney, for bringing up that love thing, which I always use in my class. Always love your students. It's very important. I think from when you go back in September, go with a bunch of love with you in every classroom. That's the best thing that can happen to you and to your students. Thank you very much. I really have to go. I'm sorry, but I have to go.
Yes, so actually, if anybody has any other comment, but if not, let me just wrap up our webinar. But let me just tell you something. Actually, what I think about conflict is that we all think it's a negative thing, and we start thinking about it, and we don't think about the solution. So it's all about the conflict. It's all about the problem, and we focus on that rather than focusing on what can we do? How can we change that? How can we find a solution to it? So yeah, that was my own comment.
Thank you.
Do you have anything to add?
Oh, thanks.
No? All right, so we would like to thank our greatest guest speakers for all their efforts and for the informative presentations. Amazing job, everyone. Lastly, for everyone who is watching us, don't forget to join us on Facebook on Global Bus Foundation and join follow Mr. Hossein Qasras for more information for all new webinars. Thank you all again, and see you soon. Thank you for attending, and
bye, everybody.
We surely had amazing time. Thank you all.
Bye, Algeria. Bye, Courtney.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
So nice to meet you.
You all.
You've been wonderful. You have been wonderful.
Amazing.
Thank you for being the solution of conflict.
Have a nice weekend.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. With love.
Yeah.
Thank
Okay.
you.